For the best meat you have ever eaten in your life, go to samsbutchershop.com. Enter the coupon code Triple T when you check out for a 10% discount. Why is the Republican Party so pathetic? I want to try and answer that today if I can, but I want to do kind of a follow-up on yesterday's show where I talked about America headed toward extinction, and I cited some examples, some certifiable examples of how Democrats in America are basically, some of them are actually pro-slavery, and I gave you examples of that, where they are taking illegal aliens in America, these people who are coming across our border. There's so many of them, so many thousands, millions of them by this point, that we can't keep track of them. What's happening to some of these people? Well, it's anybody's guess, folks, but one thing we can say for sure, some of them are sold into sex trafficking, into human trafficking. Some of them intend evil for our nation. Of this we can be certain, Chinese nationals and whatnot. Others are coming in for cheap labor from corporate entities in the United States, and some are actually becoming slaves. And that's not an exaggeration. I gave you examples yesterday of how this is true. Now, I was very hard yesterday on the Democratic Party and Democrats in America, and justifiably so. But I didn't say enough about Republicans in America, because this is not a problem which is exclusive to Democrats. And I want to point that out in this program today. And I want to tell you something you probably already know. If you are philosophically aligned at all with me, generally on the issues, and this is going to give you an indication as to why the GOP is so utterly pathetic. Now, when I say Republican, what do you think of? You know, when we come to the time of elections, on election day, it is almost exclusively always a Democrat versus a Republican. And so many times in our elections, if you're anything, again, like me, and I know a lot of you are that are in America, a lot of times you come to the polling booth and you say, well, there's no way in hell I can vote for a Democrat. That's just a given. So what are my alternatives? What are my choices? Well, you either have a viable third-party candidate running as an independent or perhaps a libertarian or what have you that you can cast your vote for. When it comes to presidential elections, of course, a third-party candidate can be nothing more than a spoiler. In our current political climate, the president is always going to be either a Republican or a Democrat. And so often is the case that we simply have to hold our nose and vote for the lesser of two evils, right? A classic example of that would have been Obama versus Romney, or Obama versus McCain. It's like, what choice do I have here? I don't like either one of these people, but I really don't like this person, so I've got to vote for the lesser of two evils just to keep the greater evil out of the White House. In 2016, it was Clinton versus Trump, and I've never been a huge Trump fan. I like a lot of the things he did. Lord knows he was not nearly as repugnant as Hillary Rodham Clinton, so of course I pulled the chain for Trump. And the same in the last election when it was Trump versus Biden. But I want to talk today about why before I get to that, let me continue in the same vein I was on yesterday, because I accused some Democrats of being pro-slavery. And again, I gave you evidence that supports that claim. It is the Democratic Party who was the home of the KKK. It is the Democratic Party who favored slavery during the Civil War, and it took a Republican president to end it. Little side note, how many of you are aware that Abraham Lincoln owned slaves? Oh, he did. How many of you are aware that Stephen Douglas owned slaves? Yes, he did. How many of you are aware that General Ulysses S. Grant was a slave owner? Oh, yes, he was. Lincoln sold his slaves in 1850, 10 years before he was elected president. I'll bet you didn't know that, but it's a fact. And I can link the proof down below if you're interested, and I'll do that at the end of this video. But slavery has always been a thing with Democrats, believe it or not. Now, you had in the 1800s the blatant slavery where blacks were brought to America because they had been sold into slavery by blacks and brought to America from Africa, African nations, and they were made to become slaves in the United States, in the colonies. We all know that. But you know, slavery didn't end with the Civil War, folks. I want to bring us into more modern times, up until the time of FDR, President Roosevelt. President Roosevelt was a terrible president. He was known as a progressive. He was an extremist left-wing Democrat. And he got us started on a whole lot of social programs that have been to the detriment of American life. And then we got Lyndon Baines Johnson, this old crooked hound dog murderer, in the 1960s. I could do shows on this man. But it was Roosevelt who gave us the New Deal. It was Johnson who gave us the Great Society. Or did I have that back? No, it was Johnson who gave us the Great Society. And he unleashed on America the welfare class on crack, essentially. And what we have today is a huge part of the American budget is allocated to social programs such as SNAP benefits, or what we used to call them food stamps, and all these type things. Now, you can feel however you want to feel about such things. I'm not opposed to helping my fellow man that is in need, although I much prefer private charity. I believe that is far more effective. There's far more accountability with that. But you know, so many of the sales in grocery stores today are paid for with these SNAP cards. They look just like a credit card, but it's actually paying for food the way they used to pay for it with food stamps. And to me, it's a very sad thing. I've never been on any kind of government benefit. I'm not being accusatory toward anyone who is. And if you are or have been, I'm not pointing a finger at you. But what I am saying is this. Freedom and liberty is the hallmark, or has historically been the hallmark, of America and Americans. It is freedom and liberty that has been our calling card. It is freedom and liberty to which immigrants from Ireland and Poland and Greece and Italy and Russia and so many other countries came to America because they didn't have this, not to this degree, in their own homelands, and they wanted liberty, they wanted freedom, they wanted to go out and be able to make their own way in life, and that's why they came to America. That's why they came to Ellis Island. They came to America because they wanted to be Americans. They wanted to be a free people. They wanted to pursue life, liberty, and happiness. They wanted to start their own businesses and be free and become wealthy. Even if they didn't, at least they always had that promise of America that if you worked hard, were industrious, and you did the right thing, and you made wise decisions, and you invested, that you could become wealthy in America. That's what they aspired to. They wanted to raise their families under the umbrella of freedom that America provided, and that's a very good thing. But times have changed, ladies and gentlemen. And what we see today are so many Americans who have willingly made themselves slaves to the state. They expect the state to pay for everything, the taxpayers, that is. They expect the government to provide their health care. They expect the government to provide their food. They expect the government to provide every necessity of life rather than going and pursuing liberty themselves, rather than going and pursuing freedom themselves without the encumbrances of the government on top of them, they just cede their liberties to the government in exchange for government provisions. They give up their birthright as Americans. They give up their American birthright for a bowl of government-provided porridge. How tragic is that? Was it Ben Franklin who once said, "The person who prefers security over liberty deserves neither"? Now, I'm not bad-mouthing people in need and people who need help and need assistance. I'm not saying that. But I'm going to tell you, there is no way on earth that I would cede what liberty I have to the imperial federal government. Not no way, not no how. I'll take these two hands and I'll go out and I'll work for a living and I'll provide my own way on my own terms, working for my own money and not asking or expecting anything from the government. How many of you are like that? And you may say, well, if you go and work a job every day and you don't just sit at home and watch cable TV and let the government provide for you, you're a slave too. No, I'm not a slave. When you go to work for someone, you ostensibly enter into a private contract. Let's say that you take your skills and your talents to a potential employer, and he or she interviews you, and they happen to be looking for someone with your skill set. And they say, if you would agree to come and give me your time and your talent and your skills, I will give you X number of dollars. And you shake hands and you say, we got a deal. That's not slavery. That's working for a living. That's a good thing. You are trading your time and your skills to an employer who in return for your time and skills is going to give you a paycheck. And when you take that paycheck to the bank, you just feel good because you earned it. That's the way it's supposed to be. Do you remember when Obama was elected president? Did you see this widely shared video of some woman who was just proclaiming that since Obama was going to be president, she didn't have to pay her cable bill anymore. She didn't have to pay her phone bill anymore because Obama was becoming president. She didn't have to pay her rent anymore because Obama was president. And I'm looking at this video going, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? I'll tell you what she was talking about. She was talking about an illusion that Obama was happy for her to believe. Obama didn't provide all that thing. He provided a lot of things at taxpayer expense. It was like the late Rush Limbaugh said when he was elected, the voters just voted for Santa Claus because they think they're going to get everything for free. Folks, that ain't life. That ain't life. You want to earn $1, you got to work for it. At least you should have to work for it. The honest way, the industrious way. Those who prefer security over liberty deserve neither. But let's talk about the GOP, the grand old party, the Republican Party. And why are they so pathetic? Because it goes like this. You know, I've had my political heart broken more times than I can remember. We'll run a candidate for president or Congress or governor or state legislator or senator or what have you. He or she has an R by his name, and they're saying all the right things. They're dishing out all the red meat. By George, once I get into office, we're going to balance the budget. We're going to rein in federal spending. We're going to stop illegal immigration. We're going to overhaul the IRS or get rid of the IRS. We're going to cut the size of and scope of government. And I'm just drooling saying, yeah, this is the red meat I've been wanting to hear. And you vote for them and they get into office and nothing changes. It's just the same old crap that you had before they got into office. Have you noticed that? But you're thinking, well, wait a minute. if I just vote for Republicans who are saying all that, it'll make a change. But it never does it? Isn't that funny? In 1980, I was 19 years old, and I was able to cast my first ballot, which I did, for Ronald Reagan, who was running against the hapless former governor of my home state, Georgia, Jimmy Carter, and I was proud to do it. And I liked Reagan a lot. Reagan was this aforementioned Republican who was saying all the right things. And listen, Reagan was a good man, and he was a good president. He made one really big mistake before he got into office, and that was his selection of vice president. But Reagan did a lot of good things. But if we are to be honest about Ronald Reagan, the fact of the matter is, when he left office, the size of government was even larger. It's true. And the deficits were even larger. It's true. And if we're being honest, we got to say so. So this applies to Reagan as well. We have had conservative Republican presidents in our republic before. We've had men like Calvin Coolidge. We've had men like John Tyler. We've had men like James Monroe and Martin Van Buren, conservative presidents. Grover Cleveland. If I could dig him up and put him back in the White House, I would. You know what why I love Grover Cleveland so much? Because he vetoed everything. We want to do this with the government. And Cleveland would say, no, we're not going to do that. That's my kind of president right there. To understand why the Republican Party is so pathetic, and to understand why they are at best controlled opposition, and to understand why we always, those that are like-minded with me, to understand the reason we always get our heart broke every 2 and 4 years, to understand that, we have to understand what the Republican Party really is. And that's what the bulk of this video is about today. Because I have a dirty little not-so-secret to tell you. We generally identify the Democratic Party as the party of liberals. Now, let's stop for a moment and talk about the word liberal. The word liberal kind of changes meaning from generation to generation. There is such a thing as a classic liberal. That would be someone such as, say, Thomas Jefferson, where the word liberal is more closely aligned with the word libertarian. But in the current day usage of the word liberal, what is generally meant, and what I mean when I say liberal, is one who is all about huge government. A liberal in modern day terms is someone who loves huge government in every area of our lives. They believe government should be in charge of our health care. They believe government should be in charge of our prices. They believe government should just basically be in charge of everything at the expense of our personal liberties. This is why I oppose liberals at every turn. I mean, you've got some like Bernie Sanders and Pocahontas who are just downright communist. But why is it that the Republican Party right now holds the majority in the House? During the first 2 years of Trump, we held all three branches, or two of the three branches. Three branches. We had the Supreme Court, philosophically speaking. We had the House and the Senate and the presidency. And he got some things done, but he didn't get a whole lot done, because it's so funny that so many Republicans in Congress opposed Donald Trump. Now, to be fair, Donald Trump is no conservative. I have always said this. He is a populist. He is palatable to me because he is a man that I believe loves America, but he does not govern as a conservative. He is a fiscal nightmare. He is a fiscal liberal. He spends money as wildly as a Democratic president would. He spent more money actually than Obama did, if you can believe that. So, let's just be honest, can we? But how can it be that the Republicans can have power at this time of shooting this video They hold the Congress. How can it be that we get nothing out of them? I mean, nothing. No legislation to speak of that you could point to and say, wow, now that's conservative legislation right there. I understand Biden's going to veto it, but that's the kind of stuff we're looking to see right there. Where is the clamor in this Republican House of Representatives for a balanced budget amendment? Where is the clamor in the Republican House of Representatives for an end to all the deficit spending and all of the spending in terms of foreign policy to places like Ukraine? Some are speaking out against it, but not enough. Where's the opposition? Why is the Republican Party so damn feckless? Well, I've got the answer. If you are under the impression, ladies and gentlemen, the Republican Party is the party of the conservatives, that's where you went wrong. And that's where I've gone wrong in the past. A news flash for you. Traditionally speaking, the Republican Party has been a party of liberals, not conservatives. Oh, it's true. Did you know that by and large, the Republican Party, at least in our lifetimes, for probably 100 years, has basically been administrated from New England by New England liberals? And I'm talking about people such as the Rockefellers, Republicans, people such as the Bushes, Republicans, the Romneys, George and now Mitt, Republicans. Nixon was a liberal when you come right down to it. Ford, liberal. These people were not conservative. They're not conservative at all. They are New England, blue blood, wine and cheese, prim and proper, high crust, echelon of society, liberals who happen to vote Republican. Do you realize that this has been the base of the Republican Party for decades? Do you realize that when Ronald Reagan ran for office that he was not welcomed by the rank and file GOP establishment? They didn't like Reagan. Did you know that? Reagan was an outsider. They didn't like his rhetoric. And I'm talking about Republicans. You Democrats can take a seat for a minute. I'm taking the Republicans to task right now. I'm talking about these Rockefeller-type Republicans, the country club types who drive Range Rovers and Jaguars and go to wine and cheese tastings. These people, these elitists who live in enclaves and behind gates in New England and on the Florida coast, places you can't get to. These people are liberals. They are big government liberals who just happen to identify politically as Republicans. These are the Rockefeller Republicans. These are the Ford and McCain and Romney and Bush Republicans. These people are liberals. Politically speaking, they are liberals. They are big government liberals. Back to Reagan. Reagan came along first in 76, governor of California, and he ran against Ford in the primary, if you recall. Reagan had all the right rhetoric. Reagan was saying all the right things. Reagan was just point after point, government is too big. We've got to reduce the size of government. We've got to cut taxes. We've got to stop our foreign intervention. We've got to rein in spending. We've got to cut agencies. And I mean, conservatives like me and my family, we were just, my Lord, put this man in office. And he narrowly lost to Ford in 76, but he came back in 80. And do you know why Reagan won in 80? It wasn't because of these New England blue blood liberal Republicans. Now, they may well have voted for Reagan over country boy Jimmy Carter from Georgia, but they didn't like him. And of course, he was made more palatable for them because he put one of their own on the ticket as his vice president. You shouldn't have done that, Mr. Reagan. Reagan won because he appealed to the working class. Reagan won because he appealed to do you remember the old yellow dog Democrats? They voted for Ronald Reagan and they put him in office. Reagan won in spite of the ruling class in the GOP. He won in spite of the GOP establishment. And I might add, it wasn't long after he assumed office that he was almost assassinated. And did you know that the Bush family knew the Hinckley family? You know John Hinckley, who shot President Reagan? The Hinckleys and the Bushes knew each other. I'm not saying, I'm just saying. This is why, ladies and gentlemen, the GOP is so pathetic. It is because there is very little difference among the ruling elites in the GOP with the Democrats. Do you need further proof? Tell me the difference, if you would please, between Charles Schumer and Mitch McConnell. You got 3 seconds. Give me one difference. Couldn't come up with anything, could you? Show me the difference in Mitt Romney and, I don't know, Elizabeth Warren. Show me the difference. Show me the difference in Susan Collins, elitist snob Republican from Maine, and I start to say Dianne Feinstein, the late Dianne Feinstein, but there you go. What's the difference? What's the difference, folks? How are they different? They all take a spot on the bench next to each other in the Senate sauna, undoubtedly. They all eat in the same cafeteria. They all go to the same parties, cocktail parties. They all get into the Senate and they lose touch with where they came from. Now they are part of the Washington elite. And that they are Democrat or Republican simply doesn't factor into it. You remember when Ted Kennedy died, he was survived by John McCain, and John McCain was frothing at the mouth with effusive praise for the man he called the Lion of the Senate. He loved Ted Kennedy. There you go again. McCain, Kennedy. Where's the difference? You see what I'm saying? This is why the Republican Party is so utterly feckless. And one more thing. I cited you a story yesterday about, and this is not anecdotal, this is literally happening in America right now, about a family in Boston that had taken in illegal aliens into America and had ostensibly made slaves out of them. And this type thing goes on in America, but it is not relegated just to Democrats. I want to make that clear. Now, I'm not going to apologize to any Democrats because you are guilty as charged, but the fact of the matter is, when you get up into the blue blood stratosphere, there's no difference. Republican, Democrat, at that level, there's no difference at all. None whatsoever. Need proof? I just gave it to you. McCain, Romney, Schumer, Pocahontas, they're interchangeable, folks. With rare exception. You can't say this of people such as Rand Paul, I do not believe. But he is a rare bird in the Senate. This is what our problem is. We do not have a two-party system in America. As I have maintained on this show, we have a uniparty. And it's as simple as that. And this is why they despise Donald Trump. Because he is beholden, to a degree, to neither. He's a populist from outside these circles of where the prima donnas live. And the American people know that, and that is the appeal of Trump. You know what the American people who support Trump like about Trump? He ain't them. Yeah, he does some things that we don't approve of, but he ain't one of them. Yeah, he's a fiscal nightmare, and yeah, he's got some personal decorum issues, but he ain't them. And that has been the appeal of Trump. So there you have it. You want to know why the GOP is so pathetic? There it is. Share this with your friends. Maybe you can enlighten them. Hey, give me your comments down below. I would appreciate it very much. Make sure you like this video down below and give me the old thumbs up. Subscribe to the Triple T channel if you have not yet. Everybody go out there and have a great Friday and a great weekend. This is Trailer Trash Tim, and I'll see you soon.